This week on Filthy Hope.
And the unfortunate thing is with the music that we do have that's popular in the contemporary Christian music scene, if we did stop and think through a lot of the songs that we sing, we wouldn't be singing many of them. In not being specific, it fits any scenario.
Yeah, it does.
And that's possibly one of the reasons why I think maybe some of these songs won't hold up long term in the same way that's like the hymns that have stood the test of time have.
This podcast is a Uniting Heart and Soul production and was recorded on land that was stolen nearly 250 years ago. On this particular episode, we recorded on the land occupied by the Gadigal clan of the Eora Nation. We pay our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and we acknowledge that sovereignty over these lands was never ceded. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. At Filthy Hope, we humbly contribute to the ancient and ongoing traditions of storytelling when we share stories on this podcast.
Hello and welcome to Filthy Hope, a podcast that spends time in the grey spaces where Jesus, life and culture intersect. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Jonty, I'm your host, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Rev Ness.
Hey, Jonty.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Doing good. Yeah, I'm a bit tired today, but I'm pushing through.
Yeah.
These conversations always give me energy though, so I'm looking forward to it.
We've had a bit of death and dying in the community, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
We're fresh from a burial from yesterday and I'm still tired from that actually, just emotionally quite drained by it all.
Yeah, I think I hadn't really acknowledged, but I think I'm realising now at this point in the week that because I haven't had usually my 2 days of weekend are Sunday and Monday.
Yes.
Or Saturday, whatever.
2 days in a row.
I've worked through those.
You did.
Not all day, every day, but I think, I've realised today that why am I so tired? Oh,
sorry, brother.
This is like...
Sorry, mate.
No. It's more like recognising this is midweek for me now.
Yeah.
Where it feels like today should be the start of the week. And I'm like, why am I so tired already?
That's because you've put in the hours.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's good, isn't it? It's good when we're called to do those extra special
absolutely.
events like that. It just brings blessing to the family. I think that was great. And great music yesterday, by the way.
Thank you.
Rachel smashed out some beautiful, albeit very traditional music. It was still really beautiful and blessed the people that were listening. Not that any of them sang because they were largely a non-Christian crowd.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's okay, yeah.
I have and this is definitely, I haven't even flagged this up for you yet, but I want to do a future episode about Christian funerals, which you're going to love.
Yes.
Because I know how passionate you are about.
I love a funeral.
I have strong thoughts about the way we do them.
Do you?
And
Great.
how they sometimes make people feel.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that.
I just want to ask you right now, how did I go yesterday?
It was fantastic. I think
did we do okay?
You crushed it. Yeah, it was great.
Well, I think we're the A-Team Funky Funeral Team. That's what I want to call us.
Yeah.
You know, I'm even thinking, do we do a side hustle?
LLC. Yeah. Hit us up.
Yeah. Funky Funerals are us.
Yeah.
We just brought joy to the place, I think, with, God brought joy to the place. But I think the words that you use and the music that you choose can really shift the tone of a funeral.
Absolutely.
Because not all funerals are crushingly horrific, are they? I think there's a time and a place, most definitely.
For sure.
And certainly yesterday was one of those very special times for a very cherished member of our community. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the feedback I've had has been wonderful. So,
yes. Some great things said to us about how we did what we did, which is great. You just go in to do the task at hand, which feels mammoth, doesn't it, at the time?
Yeah.
There's a heaviness about it, but it's that you're bringing peace to people in great grief.
Yes.
And there's something palpable and a presence in that that you're helping people on their worst day.
Yeah.
I love that. That feels really, I don't know, I just feel like I'm really doing Jesus business when we get to do that together.
For sure.
So it's good.
Yeah.
Hey, but I wanted to ask you, because while we're talking about music, can I go there now?
Yeah, please.
I wanted to ask you, because today we're going to be talking about Christian music, and I'm pretty excited because you're the expert in this area.
Well,
supposedly. I'm going to sit back and stoke the fire because I've done some research. But I wanted to kick us off by asking you, what is on your playlist and what do you listen to at the moment? Great question.
I have a very, very diverse list of like tastes of things that I love. If I'm in a hip hop vibe, if that's what I'm feeling, then at the moment definitely Vince Staples is someone that I love. Of course, Kendrick Lamar.
Are they Christian people? Because I'm like an 80s, 90s girl, so you've just got to help me understand here. Are they Christian people?
Not traditionally. No. I mean, there's an argument for Kendrick, which we'll probably get into at some point in this episode. I'm a big metal guy. There's a band called Venom Prison that I love, which is...
Venom Prison?
Yep. They're from the UK. The lead singer, she's an absolute beast of a vocalist. She's fantastic. I'm always listening to stuff that I love from my younger years, so particularly like a band called Under Oath, which I love. I think the future of Australian music is in a band called Slowly Slowly, which I will harp on about this band any opportunity I get. They're a kind of, I guess, a pop rock, alternative rock kind of group from Australia, from Melbourne. They've just been announced they're playing Good Things Festival in Australia at the end of the year, so I'll be seeing them for the 6th time, I think.
Oh, wow.
That's a few. I feel like I've just scratched it, but this isn't a music podcast. This is so I'm not going to dive super deep into it, but those are a few. I'm sure I've missed something that is like at the top of my... Oh, no, you know what? Completely related to this conversation. King's Kaleidoscope. They're probably my favourite, I guess, quote-unquote Christian band. They just put out a new album this year, and there's some sweet like 90s hip-hop stuff in there with like... There's no rapping in it, but instrumentally it's like a weird 90s gospel-infused hip-hop alternative R&B kind of feeling. Nice. And it's really, really cool. So
wow. Need to
there you go. There's some recommendations.
Well, we're so incredibly different because can I tell you what my current playlist
I'm
is?
dying to hear this.
Well, you've got to remember there's like 30 years between us, right? Or even longer. It's more than that, isn't it? So I'm old enough to be mum. And so I come from...
You're old enough to be the person... Where did this music on iTunes with the red explicit tag come from? Delete that, Jonty. You're not allowed to spend your iTunes gift vouchers on that.
Who says that shit?
When I was 12, that was a pretty standard conversation in my house.
Really?
Yeah, you know how like if it's got swearing, it's got like the red explicit tag on it.
You know me, I'd be loving to buy the explicit one. I'd be encouraging my kids.
I remember this is such a funny story. I'm dying to hear this. I want to get back to this straight away. But in 2009, Eminem released... Oh, was it 2010? Whatever. I was in primary school in year 5 or 6, and I spent iTunes money like on a gift card on the Eminem album, but I couldn't buy explicit music, so I bought the clean version, which has all the swears muted.
Right.
And so half of the songs, you can't hear half the lyrics.
Because they're all muted.
Because they're all muted. It's so funny.
Is it words like, are they really bad? Is it the mother one with the...
There's lots of like F's and S and but also like violent language, or also homophobic language, a lot of that stuff, which in Eminem uses a lot of that language quite a lot. But for artistic effect, some would say, I would say as well. That's a whole other conversation, which to be fair, we'll probably get into that at some point. But tell me, I'm dying to hear what's on your playlist.
Okay. So I start off as a minister. I was really glad when I opened my playlist that there was actually a Christian song at the front. So Austin French, Freedom Hymn. I love that one. That's a good one. I think I've probably picked that off Hope 104 Thingo.
Yeah.
The radio station, and I've just gone, I love that. Then I'm very eclectic because then I go into some Keith Urban and Carrie Underwood.
Yep.
And then I go into Carole King.
Oh.
You've got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world. I just love that. That makes me so happy. Then I go into Barbara Streisand.
Yep.
No More Tears.
Yep.
Enough is enough is enough. So I go 80s. Then I go to The Greatest Show with Hugh Jackman. And I launch that up. Da, da, na, na, na. Boom, boom. I get so excited. I think if I'm pissed off after a day at work, I launch into that straight away, push that to the top.
See, for me, that's death metal.
Oh, yes.
But also
Show tunes
but also
for me.
gym. Like if I want to
Oh.
get pumped and like, you know, really push myself, I'll throw on some real filthy death metal and just like, So for you, that's Greatest Showman.
Yeah, Greatest Showman.
Aren't we so different?
Musical theatre, big musical theatre numbers really get me going. It's amazing. Then I've got Bruno on here.
Yeah.
I'll catch a grenade for ya. He's just so hot. And then I go into a bit of Delta. My children would roll over, you know. Then I've got a couple of, I've got King and Country, I've got Joy in there and a bit of Hillsong worship. Then I go into pentatonic Jolene.
Oh, yeah.
A bit of Spandau Ballet.
Love a bit of Spandau
What
Ballet.
is wrong with me, man?
What's the track? Is it Gold?
Gold.
Yes, I thought it might be.
Yep. So that's my go-to current list for the drive home.
Nice.
If I'm not listening to a podcast or an audiobook. So
if you're not listening to the Filthy Hope podcast.
Yep. So yeah, quite an eclectic bunch of music, and I suppose Christian songs in there. There's only probably, I'd say, a third of them are what we'd class as classic Christian songs.
Like worship music.
Worshipy music. Yeah. But I do have a whole playlist that's just my Jesus stuff. If I'm wanting to have a worship time and just do that, then I go to that. Interesting though, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, our conversation today is largely going to be about Christian music and what that even is, and where we can draw some distinctions between genres, let's say, and if that's actually useful. But to lay some groundwork, you've done a bit of research into the history of church-oriented music, religious music.
I wanted to know it when the organ thing came up because so for so many churches that organ is the it's the cause of so much argument, isn't it, in churches?
Yeah.
I was a part of a church in Linfield, was my sending church, Uniting Church, and we separated from the Tryon Road Church and then the church on the Pacific Highway, which were walking distance from one another, and the Tryon Road group would not go up to the Pacific Road group because of the organ. The organ, Jonty. There was a perfectly great organ.
Half wanted the organ, half didn't?
There was two perfectly good organs in
so it was their specific organ?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was all about the specific organ. And the one in Tryon Road was an ancient organ that was brought over from England, in one of the early days. So it had specific heritage stuff. Sure. But because of this organ, it divided this beautiful community of believers. I couldn't believe it. This shit's been going on, can I tell you, since 700 AD, Jonty. Churches have been fighting, I believe, over organ music since then and will continue to do so. I found it interesting that, listen to this. Church historians are generally agreed that in the early centuries, church music was very simple. There was nothing fussy about it. Some of the practices that were found in the Jewish synagogues were singing the Psalms and spiritual songs which outlined the basic beliefs about Jesus. They were actually added later on, which I thought was interesting. So they probably sang the songs of King David.
Well, a lot of which can be found in the Psalms.
Correct. That's right. For sure. I thought this was interesting. It said, throughout early church, the Christians sang during worship and used absolutely no instruments at all. Most church fathers saw the use of instruments in worship as a childish weakness and saw it as less glorifying to God than words of praise.
There you go. So pentatonics, they're hitting the mark there.
Totally. A cappella. Yeah. And they're creating their own instrument through their voice. Yeah. But how do you feel about that, given that you are a musician? And I would imagine, do you worship just by playing your guitar or piano without actual lyrics?
I mean, yeah, two-pronged question there, I guess. But I think, well, definitely the way in which church communities have expressed worship through song has changed dramatically as the way music is performed has changed throughout history. And so, and the way that we play music in church now will be different to the way we played music in church in 30 years. Just like how, in a lot of cases, not every case unfortunately, but the way that we play music in church now is dramatically different to the way music was played in church 30 years ago,
right,
in the 90s.
Right.
Even though a lot of the time...
No, you're bagging up the 90s now, Jonty.
There's nothing wrong with the 90s. Nothing wrong with the 90s. We're just in 2023 now. But in terms of it, like that second part of the question, yes, 100%. And I think we can look to... all throughout Scripture, all the way back to the Genesis narrative, and see that God is creative and is a God that is creative but also values creativity in us and has given us that gift of being able to be creative. And so one of the issues I have a lot of the time with, I'm just going to use the label contemporary Christian music, CCM, because that kind of covers quite a large, broad demographic and different subsets of music. One of the things that rubs me the wrong way about it sometimes is kind of, I guess, almost an overflow from that thing from what year was it? The instruments are childish and
early Christian.
It's almost like an overflowing and a carrying on of that of this sentiment of the worship itself in the words or in the spiritual direct sense. I can't even, because this is something I don't subscribe to, so it's hard to find language to describe, is more important than the non-verbal creative side, which I think is garbage and I think isn't theologically sound either. Because for me, as someone that has been given the gift, and I acknowledge that it is definitely a gift to be able to pick up just about any instrument and make a sound that's somewhat musical with it, to me, I find great joy, and it is a worship experience for me, if I'm getting up and playing third guitar in a giant band and I'm not singing in a worship setting. To me, that is absolutely an expression of worship in playing, because I'm using my creativity, my skills, my gifts to bring worship towards God. And I'm also wary that we just a few weeks ago had an episode with John Humphreys about what worship even is.
Yep.
And I want to just acknowledge up the top that what we're talking about is musical worship.
Correct.
In that sense. So when we use this word worship from now on, understanding that we're not talking about this is the only form of worship.
No.
This is in this particular setting of musical worship. That's what I mean. So absolutely, I think being creative with whatever. If you're an artist, some of the coolest things I've ever seen in a church is like a friend of the show, Somerset Drayton, painting live during the service. And you talked about it at one of your churches. Yeah, exactly.
It was beautiful.
That's another example. Like,
while the music was playing.
Absolutely, that is worship. Absolutely,
gorgeous.
that is worship.
Yeah, 100%. There was this huge movement, Christian music movement in the 70s that came out of the Jesus movement, and it's where the Christian music industry developed into what we now know to be like $1 billion enterprise.
Juggernaut,
yeah, for sure. And by the 90s, there it is again, Jonty, you weren't even born.
98. I just snuck in. I'm a millennial, I promise.
Did you know this genre actually eclipsed jazz, classical and new age music, and artists began gaining acceptance in the general market?
For sure.
Christian artists started to bleed in, you know. I wonder though, Jonty, so the top two big hymns of all time, I think, are Amazing Grace and How Great Thou Art. Yeah.
Definitely.
They're up there.
Definitely.
Well, I've Googled that in the past and they came up.
I'd be shocked if they weren't in the top 10.
So can I ask you this? Do you think those two Hillsong classics, Shout to the Lord and Oceans, will be around in another 700 years? Will we be still singing them?
Gosh, that is a great question. I think, the clinical answer to that is we live in the digital era, so yes, they will still exist.
Right.
Are they, I'm going to upset some people, are they theologically sound enough to still be around in the same way that How Deep the Father's Love is still around or Amazing Grace?
Well,
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
I would say maybe not. I think Oceans actually... Oceans is a great example because I have gone back and forth on that song, particularly the lyrics in the bridge. I think because, and one of the things we'll touch on is in this sort of more modern contemporary style of Christian contemporary Christian worship is the repetition.
Right.
And I think we become desensitized to what we're actually singing.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the lyric at the heart of Oceans in that bridge,
I'm looking
it's a
at it now.
radical spirit lead me where my feet will never wander.
Yep.
My faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Saviour. That's like a huge statement to make and a life-altering statement if you believe what you're singing in giving over your life to Christ. But because we sing it 16 times, 3 times a week,
Like literally.
and I'm hyperbolizing, but like I think that's one of the things where when we repeat it so often and it becomes almost a corporate thing, it becomes a ritualistic, mindless, hands up, Jesus is my boyfriend thing, then it kind of loses what power that it does, because that does have power to it. And that is a powerful statement. But the thing is, it's about me. It's about me. It's about my decision to give my life to Christ, as opposed to being theologically rigorous in some more objective statement about faith, in the same way that how deep the Father's love is a theological statement
it is.
that is rigorous.
Jonty, nowhere in the lyrics of Oceans, and I love singing Oceans. I'm a real
Great
fan.
tune. Yeah.
Real fan.
They know how to write hooks.
They do. They really do.
Yeah.
The Saviour is mentioned and the Spirit is mentioned, but there's nowhere. It's Jesus and God are not mentioned in there at any point. I will call upon your name. Now we theologically know.
Y,
yeah,
sure.
we know what the name is that we're calling upon. But do others? Keep my eyes above the waves. Is that the waves of life? And, you might get dumped by a wave and cop a, snoz full of salt water and a throat full of sand.
Yeah.
You'll rest in your embrace. Whose embrace is that they're resting in?
This is reminding me,
Is that just being bitchy?
In what
saying that?
sense? Oh, no.
Just being
No.
hypercritical?
So what I think is you're putting your finger on, which I wholeheartedly agree with, and is this: it's broad enough that any particular style of theology can sit under that song and feel like it is acknowledged. Like there's no specificity in it. And there's a comedian, Bo Burnham, who he does a joke about how love songs in pop music are written in such a way that they are so broad that anyone can listen to the song and put themselves in the place of the lyrics being about them. So like, I love the way that your eyes have that blue, green, brown colour, and the way that your torso has 2 arms coming out. Like it's so inane and non-descriptive that you can put yourself in the shoes of like, that song's about me. And so what I think, and you can agree or disagree, but like, in not being specific, it fits any scenario.
Yeah, it does.
And that's possibly one of the reasons why I think maybe some of these songs won't hold up long term in the same way that's like the hymns that have stood the test of time have.
Okay, so what about this one then?
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. Tommy used to work on the dock. Union's been on strike. He's stuck down on luck. It's tough. He's having a tough time. Gina's been working in the diner. She's working for a man. She brings home her pay for love. For love. We've got to hold on to what we've got. It doesn't make a difference if we have it or not. We've got each other, and that's a lot for love. Let's give it a shot. Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. Take my hand. Oh, make it, I swear. Oh, living on a prayer. Boom, 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 boom. That's got to be a God song. This is a prayer-filled song.
So my question though is, who's the prayer going to? It never mentions once.
It doesn't mention
It's
God.
It's about these 2 people.
Yes.
They're praying to someone.
Well, they are. And Bon Jovi is writing a prayer about these people. That's what I think.
Okay, yeah.
He's writing a prayer about his mates, Tommy and Gina. They're having a rough trot, and they're going to pray and they're going to hang on and hold tight in the middle of all this disaster of their relationship. The chips are down, their mortgage is high, life's tough. They're going to hold hands, and that doesn't matter what shit comes their way because they're going to pray it away, brother. That's a Christian song.
Sure.
How is it any different?
So this is a great question to dive into, is what is a Christian song?
Right.
Because I think in opening this conversation up to Bon Jovi, I think there's an interesting distinction, an important distinction to make, and a distinction that I don't think is well identified in some corporate money-making music spheres between songs that are explicitly written and performed and distributed for the purpose of worship. So what we would understand as worship songs, songs that we sing in a congregation, songs that are explicitly about faith and Jesus and religion and church and God and the Holy Spirit, all that stuff. That is one thing. Hymns fall in that. Hillsong United certainly falls in that. That's a very and then on the almost a separate distinction is what some people would call quote unquote secular music. Now I have lots of issues with even making this. I there are so many things that I'm deciding.
Just say it, Jonty.
No, I'm just deciding in which direction to go, because now I would say Bon Jovi did not write that song for the explicit purpose of worship.
No.
So therefore, we now have to look at it slightly differently. And important for me is, especially faith aside, as an artist, as a creative, once the thing has been made and it has been released, it's no longer up to me or Bon Jovi or Madonna or whoever to tell the person listening to it what it means.
Right.
So if you want to listen to Living on a Prayer and go, that's, oh my God, that's about faith, that's about God, that connects with me, that uplifts me spiritually and provides a religious experience for me in connecting with my Creator, fantastic. But we can't then hold it up to, I think, the same theological rigor that we hold up other, like worship
like
music
Amazing
to.
Grace.
Exactly. On the flip side, like that's a pretty standard, non-controversial statement, I would say. It's still going to come back to bite me, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is we then can't hold secular music up to the same theological rigor that we hold hymns to or worship music to, because that's not what they're written for.
Right.
So it's almost like it's open for interpretation, and if you get that out of it, amazing, but don't tell other people not to listen to it because it's not theologically rigorous. It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Talking about theologically rigorous, before I was a Christian, I loved Madonna. So I'm taking you back to the 80s now. 80s, so even further. I don't even think your mum and dad knew each other then, Jonty. So there was this song that Madonna used to sing, and it was called Like a Prayer. And this is before I was a Christian, and I used to put a tea towel on my head, pretend I was a nun, and dance around in the lounge room with prayer hands, and sing the lyrics to the song. Do you want me to bring them up and sing them to you?
Sure, yeah, hit me with them.
So hang on a minute. I hear your voice. No, that doesn't go like that.
I'm staying in.
Asshole, Jonty. When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I want to take you there in the midnight hour. I can feel your power just like a prayer. You know I'll take you there. And she goes... Then she says she'll hear his voice. It's like an angel sighing. I have no choice. I hear your voice. I feel like flying. But, so I used to sing this thinking this was a Jesus thing.
And the reason why is the music video, right?
The music video. Now, and it's really scary because the music video had burning crosses on it. She's dressed in a sexy black nighty dress slip thing with boobs and leg and looking totally gorgeous. She has nail-pierced hands It's frightening.
As in, like
her fingers
the
at
Christ.
Christ.
Yep.
Yes.
What's there's a word for that.
Yeah, there is a word. We'll insert that now.
It'll be flashing on the screen right now.
That's it. There's a priest that comes alive that she tenderly touches his face and he has tears down his face. It's quite overly sexualized, this video. And then there's a gospel choir singing and clapping in the Southern Baptist style. And for a non-Christian, somebody that didn't know about God, I actually thought it was God music because she's in a church. It looks churchy from the film clip, and she's singing about a prayer. Mm. So that's trickery, isn't it?
Well, if I can speak on it just from from a more outside looking in on that experience, is those lyrics, if you read the lyrics removed from the music video,
right,
it's about sex. That's about a dude.
Jonty, really?
For sure.
Oh,
and she's likening that experience of being with a guy.
I'm down on my knees. I want to take you there. Is that talking about, are you for real? That's terrible, Jonty.
Yeah, it's a pop song. It's about love. It's about sex. It's about romantic relationships.
Yeah, but as a young girl, I didn't think. I thought it was a church thing.
Of course, and that's largely, I would assume, because of the music video, which and we might put some stills up from it now as we're talking, is largely using, because the metaphor of the song is likening that experience of being with this guy to a prayer, to a religious experience. And afterwards, they then go, we got to make a music. Well, we picked this song from the record to make a music video. The metaphor at the heart of the song is it's kind of like this, the ecstasy of being with this person is like a religious experience. Let's just bring in all the religious iconography and make an eye-catching music video, because that has stuck in your brain. You still remember it.
I did, yeah. And I wanted to talk about this because it was a big memory in my mind, and it actually used to make me feel really great singing it. Because remember, I've had no Christian
upbringing at this point.
No. And
you were 19, roughly?
19, yeah. So it was almost anthem-y. I would sing it like an anthem and literally put a tea towel on my head to look like a nun and danced around the lounge room. I think I made my sister do it as well, and all our friends. And they did, because I was good at choreography, Jonty. And I think, wow, it's powerful, isn't it? It's a powerful thing.
For sure. And I think an interesting thing then, we've kind of outlined this thing where holding secular music up to theological standards. I'm sure now you'd look at that and go, that's a Madonna song. That's a pop song.
I feel really embarrassed that I thought that at the time. Nobody said anything to me. That's the worst part. How bad is that?
But like now, as an adult, you can look at it and go, well, clearly that's not a religious song. It's a pop song. It's a pop song, right?
100%.
Yeah. And so I think it's an interesting, and this kind of bleeds into a conversation which we don't have to spend heaps of time on, around, this should Christians, particularly children, listen to secular music, in guarding people's ears and eyes and hearts from, or the equivalent of like, should Christians watch Game of Thrones? Right. Should Christians listen to Billie Eilish? I've seen plenty of YouTube video and article arguing that they shouldn't, because it's, has elements of the occult, and that argument could be made of that Madonna song. Oh, there's burning crosses in that video. That's clearly
it's pretty rough,
satanic in nature, all that stuff, right?
It's pretty dark when I look back at it. It's awful.
Where I want to jump in and go, yeah, great, if that's the stance you want to take on it, fantastic. Don't tell other people what they can and can't listen to.
Correct.
And this is where I think being a musician, being a creative, also being a person of faith, and also being a person that is part of the institutional church, I get really frustrated when I see Christians have an opinion, for sure. I'm not saying don't have strong opinions about what you should or shouldn't listen to as an individual, but don't then try and enforce that on other Christians through teaching and teach people to be critical and active in what they listen to, watch, read, engage with. Absolutely, but don't just go blanket no.
Yeah, like it is art, after all.
It is art.
If we wandered through the art gallery and had a look at the Rubens paintings, are we not to look at those with the big voluptuous breasts
or something like Guernica, which is like horrifically violent?
Totally.
All the different stuff,
Are Christians not meant to look at that artwork either?
That's right.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And I want to make clear, it's up to the individual.
Yeah.
If something is going to be like upsetting to you, or you feel like a song with particular, like if it's the occult or if it's like violent or if it's overly sexual or if it's the language, if you think it's going to like legit get to you and make and shake something in you, then make that decision. Absolutely. Like that, we are all empowered to do that. But then to go, Christians shouldn't listen to Taylor Swift.
Oh, who even says that?
It's pop music.
Right.
Listen to it. I don't particularly like Taylor Swift.
Does that mean don't go and watch Barbie either?
Which I want to talk to you about at some point. But we can save that to the end.
Yeah, save that.
I know you've now seen it.
Oh, Barbie.
Yeah, I just think I feel really strongly that it's whenever. Yeah, well, put it this way: we've said this a few times on this show. Whenever the church starts to draw lines, like between people, Jesus is invariably on the other side of that line of the person drawing the line. So I just think, it's a bit ridiculous.
You know,
sometimes.
we follow a very creative God, and we should worship Him creatively. Whatever that looks like.
Absolutely.
For the individual, right?
Absolutely.
And not judge one another.
Absolutely.
In the doing of.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible is really clear. It says in Colossians, when I was Googling what does the Bible say about singing to Jesus, that's what I put in the search. And it came up Colossians 3 and Ephesians 5. It said, tells us to sing to God, in inverted commas, and inverted commas, to the Lord, because He is the object of our praise. And Ephesians 5:19 says, singing and making melody to the Lord with your heart. You know, it is to Him and about Him that we sing.
Yep.
I thought, well, it's pretty simple, isn't it? And that would cover a lot.
For sure. And I can speak to that because I've written worship music. I've also written plenty of music that isn't worship music. As a person of faith, I don't see those two separate things as more or less valuable in the pursuit of worshipping God.
Yeah.
You know, the worship music that I've written with the specific purpose to be sung as an expression of worship. The other music I've written has been out of personal creative vision.
Right.
All of which I do, whether it's in songwriting, whether it's in this podcast that we do, whether it's in the scripts that I'm working on, whether it's whatever it is all an offering to God. Because as a person of faith, I understand, or it's my conviction, that God is a creative God and has gifted me, everyone, but for me, has gifted me with a particular creative outlook.
You've got an abundance, you lucky bastard.
But a particular taste, a particular things that I like, things that I don't like, and everything I do to express that creativity is done out of adoration and in an offering to the Creator God.
That's it.
And so some of that is worship music. Some of that, some of that are songs about how life's shitty sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
God isn't mentioned
in
in those songs. But God is deeply involved in those songs because God was and is present with me as I go through those shitty things and as I write that music and as I perform that music and as I produce that music and as I edit it and as I pay people to do artwork for it that reflects the song, like all of the stuff, right? None of that is...
Are you saying that Jesus and the Holy Spirit is in you, Jonty? Everywhere you go?
I mean...
Amen.
That's what happened to Pentecost, right?
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It says, trying to find boundaries around this and what's right and what's wrong, because, I live in the black and white. My sister says I'm very black and white.
I don't know. You didn't plan this, but you're wearing black and white today.
Yeah,
we totally match.
I didn't even go. I know. We've just got a thing.
We've got black jeans on as well.
Yeah. The Apostle Paul instructed the Colossians, "Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Teach and admonish one another in all wisdom, and with gratitude in your hearts, sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs to God." Matthew 26:30. Bam.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty simple, really, isn't it? Have gratitude in your heart and sing and praise hymns and spiritual songs. There's this beautiful song. Now I want you to play the elevator music. It's a Delta Goodrem song. It's funny because after I read that piece, I actually, if I'm having a moment where I don't want to sing a song that I know that is a deeply religious song because it's filled with lots of lyrics, I often go to this, and I'd be interested to know, I would love to reach out to Delta and ask her, and it's called The Power. I wonder if she had a Jesus moment or a spirit-filled moment. I don't even know if Delta's a Christian. And it says, the power lives in you, the power lives in me, and she repeats that, the power lives in you, you've got the power, you've got the power. And she says, the power of prayer, it's got me on my knees, it's keeping me alive, and I do believe that no matter what in life, given up to my pride, and I finally see this time I believe that the power lives in me. And I love it. She says, just do yourself a favour, you are your only saviour. Oh, I wonder if she's talking about herself and she's got the power. I sing it. When I sing it in the car, I think of God when I sing it. And I feel the Spirit's power when I sing it. So isn't that interesting? So that you can actually take the song and sing the lyrics according to the gratitude that you have in your own heart for the Lord.
That's art.
That is, isn't it?
There's a great description of art, like good art acts as a mirror.
Yeah.
That we get out of it what we bring to it.
Yep.
And that's a great example. Who knows what Delta
I would love to ask her.
Yeah, but the answer almost kind of doesn't matter anymore, because for you that song has exactly.
Isn't that bizarre?
That song has taken on a different meaning.
I
that
feel
is
a bit
specific
embarrassed to tell you that. But
why?
Because it's not a Christian chart topping
no
song. Do you know what I mean?
But that's cool that it isn't.
And it's Delta. And my kids take the piss that I listen to her stuff, but I love the fact that it's got great drums, it's got great rhythm to it, and it feels powerful when I sing, and I drive and I sing and I think of the Spirit and I think of prayer, and if I'm feeling all of that, I'll go to that song. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Again, that's just a great example of a creative person just making something cool.
Yeah.
And now that piece of art can take on all different meanings to all different people.
Crossed over.
That's right.
Hasn't it? Between what we would, well, for me, I'd love to know if anybody else has heard that song and how they've interpreted it. But I clearly have interpreted it that way. Another example of that is as a little girl, as like a 10-year-old, hearing ABBA for the first time. Honey, honey, hold me, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Honey, honey, do up. Honey, honey, feel me, baby. Honey, honey, da. It's all about sex, Jonty.
Of course it is.
I was a little kid singing it with no freaking idea.
Give me a man after midnight.
What's that? Where's that from?
That's an ABBA song. Gimme.
Oh, it is too.
It's about, of course.
I know,
sex. Yeah.
but I only worked it out as like a young adult that singing the songs. I think when Mamma Mia came on stage, I started working out the lyrics as an adult person and being quite horrified that Mum and Dad were, actually it was my Mum and Dad, that were anything goes, that we were allowed to listen to that stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, you make me dizzy.
Well, I remember, like, certainly when time travel back to 2009.
Right.
I was in year 5 and I had an iPod Nano and I would save up pocket money for iTunes vouchers so I could buy songs on iTunes. And the music that I listened to at home on the radio was 104.1, the charts.
Yeah.
And every night before bed, whenever it was, I would listen to the chart countdown, and so that was the music that I was listening to, and I would purchase on iTunes songs that I liked so I could listen to them on the way to school and all the stuff, right? And of course I wasn't allowed to listen to music or download music, that had swearing in it.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop me from downloading, every other pop song in the charts that's pretty explicitly about sex.
Yeah, right.
I remember Classic.
And did you know it was at the time though?
I think Probably, but not at the understanding of like really knowing why that's kind of gross.
Yeah.
So I still stands out. The song "Whistle" by Flow Rider is about blowjobs.
See, I didn't know that.
Something about blowing my whistle, right?
Oh,
I
right.
don't remember the lyrics, but like, there's no swearing in that song.
Yeah.
But to me, that's probably worse than, I don't know, King's Kaleidoscope said "fuck" in a song.
Did they?
10 years ago. Yeah, and they copped heat for that.
Oh.
And in a song that's like a deep expression of anguish, and it's the song's literally called A Prayer. So on the one hand, there's that song. On the other hand, there's all the quote unquote clean pop music that we listen to on the radio that to me is like, I just don't listen to it anymore, partly because the music's garbage, I find a lot of the time. Not to my taste. Not garbage, not to my taste.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, a lot of the time, and this is where I do agree with some more conservative Christian, stereotypical conservative Christian value stuff about listening to secular music, is like, I just find a lot of that stuff gross. I'm listening to like a 19-year-old sing about something super like hypersexual, and I know that teenagers are listening to it on the bus. I'm like, that's to me, it's just, it's gross, it's icky, and it's a crossover of culture that shouldn't, but it's weird that it happens, that we have like 9-year-old me was listening to Flow Rider sing about strippers.
Yeah.
And it didn't, at the time, that didn't cross my mind as weird. But certainly to my parents, I remember my dad got me to delete a song off my iPod because I played it in the car because I thought it sounded cool.
Yeah.
It was one that I bought that I'd heard. I had no idea what it was now. I can't remember. But him being horrified that was a song that I was listening to. No swearing on it.
No.
It was just so hypersexualized and gross.
Yeah.
That,
Good daddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's this. I feel, and it's interesting. I'm at the age where I'm certainly not about to have kids, but like I'm at the age now where that is like within the next 10 to 15 years a thing, that whether or not we decide to have children, that's a whole other. But like people my age, that's now a thing that we're thinking about, and kind of I look at it now and go, how would I feel about my 9-year-old son coming home and singing
Blowjobs.
Trumpets by Jason Derulo?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Does Jason Derulo sing that?
He has a song called Trumpets that's, I think, probably...
Is it about a trumpet?
No.
No, it's a penis song.
Probably, yeah.
Why is he singing a penis song?
Listen to any pop song.
Oh, man.
It's usually about sex.
What is wrong with me? I just feel like an old lady now.
And I want to make the distinction. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people writing and performing those songs.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. I think more the issue is when we go, I don't know. Like, okay, as an adult now, I love good, catchy, hook-driven pop music.
Me too.
And I love when songs get edgy.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to death metal.
Yeah,
like
you do.
Hot Call Kettle Black.
That's how
like,
I found you singing
that's
a
right,
death metal song.
Doing metal vocals. And so, like, it's not about you can and can't write. You can write songs about this and you can't write songs about this. It's more about the audience, right? And being aware of what you're listening to and being activated and critical in. And I think when you're younger, you don't have those skills yet, and those things can start to affect.
And if you're hearing repetitive loops of chorus that have negative words and connotations, that's got to affect your psyche, I reckon. A little bit like a positive loop of positive lyrics of, say, Christian music would affect your psyche. I know in my early days of Hillsong, when I first started, when it was Hills Christian Life Centre, I learnt about the Bible through the lyrics of their Christian music. And that was my first taste of theology, were the words that they sang. And it was powerful, and that's how I was educated. I mean, it's a shallow education, but it was certainly better than not having that education. And
this is why it's important, what I said before, about music that is openly for that purpose. Worship music, Christian music that is written with the purpose of worshipping God, whether it's in a congregation or otherwise. We can hold them up to theological standards. Great example, when we were doing online church, one of the songs I did, again, was a King's Kaleidoscope song, A Little Bit of Faith, which is
awesome.
catchy pop song.
Totally cool.
And someone pulled me up and said, hey, in that song, no, what it was, I was asked if I was a Calvinist or if the songwriter was a Calvinist, because one of the lines is it's going to be okay with a little bit of fate.
Right. Yeah. So they're going predestination.
Which just as a lyric, I don't care. It's like whether or not you believe, like that's a whole other discussion, but it's more because that was in the setting of church and it was a worship song that we were singing along as a congregation. Granted, it was online. I think fair enough, hold those songs up to that standard. And if you don't think that that is something that you align with theologically, don't sing it.
Right. Good call.
Like,
very
absolutely.
few people would actually think that through, I think, you know.
And very few people think that through. That's such a, yes, underline that.
Yeah.
So few people actually think that through.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is with the music that we do have that's popular in the contemporary Christian music scene, if we did stop and think through a lot of the songs that we sing, we wouldn't be singing many of them.
Wrath of God. Cornerstone song.
Yep. But I'm even thinking the Jesus is my boyfriend style of worship. If we actually stopped and thought about the theology of those songs, do we align with them? I don't we wouldn't I mean, it's specific to people and their theology and different congregations, different movements and different faith, like all the different things, right? But wherever you lie, there'll be a bunch of songs that if you actually sat and thought about what they mean, you probably would stop singing them.
Yeah.
If you really took serious, we're vocalizing these words together.
Yeah.
But Cornerstone's a great example.
Oh, I know.
You have to
I know so many.
The wrath of God was satisfied.
Yeah, I know that many.
In Christ alone. Yeah.
Christian friends of mine, ministers, will not sing that verse.
Yeah.
That part in Christ alone, they'll take it out or they'll change the wrath of God.
Yeah.
Because they don't believe theologically in the wrath of God.
Yeah.
And rightly so. That's good that they make the decision to remove it if that's not what they believe.
Yeah, for sure.
Knock yourself out. That's
sure.
good. That's really an intelligent decision for you and your theological position. I've got a lot of respect for that. What about the use of genre? When I was going through college, there was the whole idea of having to change all our music so that we not genre, gender.
Yeah,
when it comes to gender, having to change all our lyrics so that it was sort of gender neutral.
Yeah.
You know, taking out father and replacing it with God. What's your take on that, Jonty?
I empathise and I understand. Purely from a copyright standpoint, it's really ethically tricky and possibly illegal to, if you're doing the right thing and using song select and the artists are receiving royalties from the songs that you sing at church every week, to then change the lyrics of a song that you don't own the intellectual rights to. People can do what they want. For me, I find that icky. So like, for example, if in a non-church setting, if someone for whatever reason wanted to cover a Jonty Cornford original, and they performed it at a festival and they changed the lyrics, I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't want that. I would rather them sing a different song than change my song.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also, I've been to a few things where the language has been changed to, and I can't remember the song or what it was changed from or to, but that's kind of irrelevant. But more that when it came to that part in the song, the slides had the updated lyric and they didn't fit the number of syllables.
Oh, so it doesn't
and
scan.
so it didn't scan well. And as a congregation, we were all completely distracted. And then it was drawing attention to it. And I just think if you're going to do it, if you are going to do it skillfully.
Yeah,
maybe get a songwriter.
Yes.
But then as well, and this does also relate to genre as well as the gendered language, I think it is entirely down to the needs of the congregation specific that is singing. If you are in a congregation where the vast majority of people have real issues, like we've talked about before on this show, about God being a father, they have trauma attached to father figures in their life, I would say maybe don't pick songs that have emphasis on God as Father. That would be one thing. But also B, if I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I would understand a congregation doing that to suit the needs of that specific congregation. The thing that I would then draw the line at, just me personally again, is assuming that everyone has to do that.
Right.
And holding people accountable to a standard that they didn't know was put in place.
Yep.
And that is aside from I deeply empathise with people that have those.
100%.
It's not about whether or not I think God should be one gender over another. That's irrelevant to this issue. I deeply empathise and celebrate people engaging in their theology in a deep enough way that they can actually wrestle with the idea of gendered language surrounding God.
Yeah, make it work for you and your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the big thing for me as a creative, I just kind of like the copyright stuff. I'm like, don't change the song.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good convo.
Yeah, really, really, I think challenging for me, hopefully challenging for our listeners. I think to maybe, and I want to talk to you about Barbie in a sec as well. That'll be a good chapter closer for this episode. One of the most resonant, let's say, religious experiences I've had listening to music was a song by Kendrick Lamar. He was a hip-hop artist. It's American hip-hop, so it's filled with four-letter words and other stuff. But the character that he's playing in the song is a version of him that is caught up in the fame and the wealth and the cars associated with being a famous rapper. And he's pulled up to a gas station to fill up. And I'm condensing a 6-minute song down to a sentence. But he is confronted by a homeless man who he ignores and doesn't give money to and doesn't help. The revelation at the end of the song being that homeless man was God.
Wow.
Is Kendrick Lamar a Christian artist? No. Like he's not writing music for worship. He's just an artist creating art. To me, that speaks so more powerfully and clearly to A, the complexity of being a human being, B, the complexity of being a human being that's trying to wrestle with who God is and who God is in our life, but also C, the creativity of taking all that messiness and complexity of being a human being living on earth and taking our God-given creative abilities and making something beautiful and something that resonated with me might resonate with other people. To me, I go, God's all over that. God is working through that and with that. More so than, I'm not going to name a song, but Jesus is my boyfriend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's let that land.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely know people feel differently and that's fine.
They should write to us.
Yeah, feel free. Hit us up. Real quick.
Yes.
To wrap this up.
How to ruin an episode.
We are recording this at the end of August. Barbie has been out for about a month now. You had a chance to go and see it.
Can you do I'm only going to tell you what I think if you can do an emoji about what I'm going to say.
Sure. I don't even know where this is. I have no concept of what you thought. So
I want you to do the green vomit emoji.
Really?
All over my head and all over me now. Go.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, not a fan.
Not a fan.
I was so excited to go thinking this is going to be great. Everybody said how great it is. All these women on social media taking photos of themselves dressed in pink with pink shit in their hair, being girls trying to think they look like Barbie, having dumbass photos in those dumbass boxes set up in dumbass hoits, and they go in and they have this stupid photos. They look stupid. They don't look anything like Barbie, and they're having their dumb photo there. That gave me the shits from the start. Then I go into the movie. She's underweight. She's anorexic. She's got a gap between her legs. Not every girl has a gap between her legs. She was a shit role model, Jonty, and they have flipped the story. They've flipped the story because the story was not as it is. The story today isn't the story that was being told in the 70s.
Right. So can you unpack that? The story being told in the 70s.
This is how a girl should look.
Yep.
5'10",
Yep.
gap between her legs, blonde, shoulder length hair, pointy boobs, tiny waist.
All the stuff. The stereotypical Barbie.
Yeah, you don't eat or drink or exercise because you've got no muscle tone. And that's that's little girls. That's what a little girl should look like.
Right. And
so for me,
yep.
I hated Barbie. I probably should have started this by telling you that I hate Barbie.
As in before seeing the movie, you hate Barbie.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't into Barbie. I didn't let my girls have Barbies.
Yep.
And if anybody dared give my kid a Barbie, we fed them to the dog. So
it looked like, what is it they call Crazy Barbie?
Crazy Barbie.
Up in the,
Totally.
Yeah.
If she had a head left.
Yeah.
Definitely. I hated the Bratz dolls as well. At least they were a little bit more muscular. I just thought, no girl looks like that, and I don't want my little girls growing up thinking that that's what a little girl looks like, because it's not.
Yep.
So I went into the movie with these adult women my age who were so excited. I just couldn't get it. I didn't relate. They all wore pink. I didn't give a shit about that. It almost irritated me. I just was not my vibe. I sat through the movie and I'd been told by my daughters, Ginger had told me, Mum, wait for the Ken scene, you're going to love it. His dance routine and his song is so good. Now do a yawn emoji. Overrated.
Gosh,
not
this
even
is a
funny.
hot take.
Not even funny. Ryan Gosling, no.
Wow, this is a hot take.
Wrong.
Wow.
Double wrong. Didn't work for me at all. The set was just blah. I didn't like the vibe of the movie. Nah. 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. Wow. Okay.
Sorry. I know I'm going against the grain and
No, this is great.
I feel terrible for saying that because I know I'm going to cop all the hate in the world. It's got nothing to do with Jesus. But it's just my personal feeling. And, my daughters have come. I raved and ranted at home when I got home after it. Shut up, Mum. We're sick of hearing how you feel about this. Yeah, I just didn't work for me at all. I wonder if there was other people out there it didn't work for. But surely not. It's box office smashed.
Oh, it's
right.
It's
be
definitely a historic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I must be a minority. Maybe I'm just fucked up. I haven't said fuck the whole thing, so now I'm going to say it.
Well, and we said this before, that's the beautiful thing about art.
Yeah, I suppose.
The way you interpret it is different to the way I interpret it.
I know, you loved it.
Well, I didn't love it. I liked it.
Yeah. You saw it twice, mate.
I did, yeah, because I had to go see it with Claire.
Right.
She also just thought it was fine.
Did she like it?
Yeah, she didn't hate it, but she just thought it was
I was
pretty
actually
average.
repelled by it.
Yeah,
I couldn't
wow.
wait for it to get out.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so
It
interesting.
was dumb. I thought the acting was dumb. I thought it was all dumb.
I want to unpack this more, but I feel like this is going to take forever.
But I feel like it's psychologically, it's something to do with my deep psychology about being a girl. I think I'm just mental. I think it's coming from that. Potentially.
But I
Please
don't.
go and see the movie and make up your own mind.
For sure. But I don't want to dismiss your experience of seeing Barbie as anything other than an entirely valid and worthwhile experience of seeing Barbie.
Yeah, I had a couple of laughs, but not many.
Yeah, I didn't find it particularly funny.
No.
I actually found it more emotional than I did funny.
Oh, I wasn't emotional at all.
Because to me, in contrast to the way you experienced the movie, obviously I didn't play. Well, not obviously, but I didn't play with Barbies as a kid.
Yeah.
I read books.
Yeah.
I was a nerd. But so I didn't connect with the movie in terms of I don't have a connection to Barbie as a brand and as an image. to me, I was actually and still am deeply cynical, I think in the same way you are, in how Barbie, from a very surface and distance perspective, depicts women in an idealised, like the Margot Robbie.
Right.
And I think her casting was
perfect. I agree.
In depicting, and her character name is stereotypical Barbie.
Yes.
And to me, the thing that actually worked really well was stereotypical Barbie realizing the damage that her as an image has caused women, and actually coming to the understanding that there's a moment on the bus stop that for me informs how I feel about because I watched the rest of the movie through the lens of the one scene when they travel from Barbie land into the real world, and Ken goes off to learn about horses and the patriarchy, and Margot Robbie has this interaction with an old lady at the bus stop.
Yeah, I remember that scene.
To me, that's what the movie's about.
Yeah, that was the moment, wasn't it?
But it kind of works on the surface as a corporate Barbie movie,
Yes.
but it also works as a deconstruction of what Barbie is.
Right.
And I think Greta Gerwig is a
Clever.
phenomenal filmmaker. Yeah.
My favourite scene was misogynist Ken
Yeah.
back in Barbie Land.
Yeah.
I think they nailed that bit really well. I think they nailed the character. I enjoyed him more as that character because I thought they nailed that really well.
Yeah.
I just couldn't hook in.
I've had conversations with other dudes who hate this movie because
Right.
they think it's making fun of men in general.
Oh,
It's making fun of that particular type of dickhead dude that
Yeah.
can't see the joke.
Correct.
Like that person can't see the
that's
joke.
right. That's right. Not all men.
Yeah, not
No,
exactly.
no,
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
the Ken misogyny men.
Yeah. So I'm glad you could share that because
I feel like I'm going to get hate mail now.
because I know a lot of people feel scared. Like whenever a big movie like this comes out and people don't like it, they're like, "Oh, am I going to offend people? Am I like just
Correct.
being contrite?" No. It's art, so
I
people are
didn't
going to like
follow.
it and people are going to not like
I
it.
did not, but the whole world, it's $bazillion box office, so lots of people have obviously liked it
Yeah,
because they keep going, you know.
yeah.
I wish it well, and I thought Margot Robbie's hair is very pretty.
There's one moment that did get a laugh out of me, but I think actually was a bad decision
Yeah.
in terms of the movie. Is when Barbie, stereotypical Barbie, comes to the realization that she can be beautiful, or she is beautiful, even if she does have cellulite or flat feet or whatever. And then the movie pauses, and the narrator, who's Helen Mirren, goes, "Note to the filmmakers: this point doesn't land as well if you cast Margot Robbie."
Correct.
Which absolutely
But
spot
that's
on.
funny.
It is funny,
Yeah.
but I think that actually it broke the straight face delivery of the movie. I don't know.
Right,
Yeah.
No, I did like that moment too.
Yeah. So there you go. Agree, disagree. There are people. There are lots of people that don't like this movie.
Yeah.
There are lots of Christians writing dumb articles about it. I tell you that much.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just go for a Google if you want to doom scroll for half an hour. And,
A doom scroll.
Yeah.
Oh, great combo. Thanks for playing.
Yeah. And thanks for joining me in this conversation. If anyone listening or watching wants to join the conversation as well, you can find us on socials. filthyhope_pod is our Instagram handle. We're on Threads. We're on, and I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. It's
Yes.
Twitter, you twat. Don't come for us, Mr. Musk. And you can email us at filthyhopepod@gmail.com if you'd like to follow up any of what we've talked about. Get in touch, ask questions, share stories. Or we also have a Facebook private group if you'd like to hang out with us there. The link for that is down below.
Awesome.
I think that covers, aren't we not good at this whole podcasting thing still?
It's a thing.
I feel so rusty today for some reason. I don't know why. We've been doing this for so long now. I say so long. 18 months. Anyway, let's wrap it there. Pleasure talking to you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jonty.
I'm Ness.
This has been Filthy Hope. We'll see you next week.
This is a prayer for the people who want to give up, who have been hurt beyond repair and cannot bear to see your face in anything. Find peace in letting go of the guilt that is in yours, and find This is a